The gravel crunches like breaking glass. Captain Thomas Mackay freezes mid-step, his boot pressed into the stone pathway outside the mock German POW camp on the Isle of Arran. 30 yards ahead, 2 sentries snap their heads toward the sound. It's 021 Centian hours, October 8, 1943, and this is the 4th training exercise Mackay's commando team has failed this week. Not from bad tactics, not from poor timing, from physics. Every footstep on gravel announces their presence like a gunshot in the Highland silence. The 12-man team drops flat against cold Scottish earth as searchlights sweep overhead. Their hearts hammer, their fingers grip frozen mud. And somewhere in Edinburgh, 340 miles south, a 54-year-old cobbler with arthritic hands is about to solve a problem that's been killing British commandos for 6 months. Major General Robert Laycock watches through binoculars from an observation tower 300 yards away. He's seen this failure 12 times in 8 days. Different teams. Same result. Gravel defeats silence. The statistics are written in blood. In the past 6 months, 12 commando raids on occupied Norway and France have been compromised before reaching their objectives. Of 143 commandos deployed, 89 are dead or captured. Post-mission intelligence confirms what Laycock suspects. German sentries heard them coming. The gravel pathways, stone courtyards, and rocky beaches of occupied Europe turn Britain's elite soldiers into targets. Standard British Army boots generate 68 to 74 decibels walking on gravel. Sentries can hear that at 50 yards. Even the quietest commando, moving with perfect technique, can't defeat simple physics. Leather soles compress loose stones, stones grind together, sound travels, men die. Laycock has tried everything. Specialized training in silent movement, experimental rubber overshoes that tear after 200 yards, cloth wrappings that soak through in wet conditions and become louder than bare boots. The Ministry of Supply has tested 14 different modifications. All failed. Some made it worse. The cloth absorbed water and created squishing sounds. Thin rubber overshoes amplified vibrations. Cork inserts crumbled. One felt padding design caught fire during live ammunition training. The Army's Equipment Development Committee is clear. Silent movement across gravel is physically impossible. Commandos must avoid such terrain, which means avoiding 60% of infiltration routes in occupied Europe. The math is brutal. At current casualty rates, combined operations will run out of trained commandos before D-Day. What Laycock doesn't know is that in a cramped Edinburgh workshop, Duncan McAllister is examining a pair of children's dance shoes with professional curiosity. The shoes belong to young Margaret Crawford, brought in by her mother for repair. The rubber soles are worn through after 8 months of ballet lessons, but McAllister is interested in the tread pattern. Small hexagonal cells, each 8 millimeters across, arranged in a precise honeycomb covering the entire sole. The hexagons are shallow, 3 millimeters deep, separated by thin rubber walls. McAllister has never seen this exact configuration. Most shoe soles feature simple grooves or parallel ribs. This honeycomb is different, more complex. He presses his thumb against the pattern. The individual cells compress independently, each one deforming without affecting its neighbors. He presses a standard flat sole. The entire surface compresses as one piece, transferring force across the whole area. The difference is subtle but significant to a cobbler who spent 37 years studying how pressure distributes across surfaces. McAllister repairs the shoes, matching the honeycomb pattern with his tools, and files the observation away. 3 weeks later, Lieutenant James Ashford walks into the shop in civilian clothes. He's carrying military boots that show unusual wear. Someone glued thin rubber sheets to the soles. The sheets have torn apart after heavy use over rough terrain. Ashford explains quietly that he's training with a specialized unit. He can't say where or what they do, but they need boots that don't make noise on gravel. Every modification they've tried has failed. Can McAllister help? The cobbler studies the boots in silence. The wear pattern tells him everything. Heavy heel pressure, ball of foot stress, lateral marks from rapid direction changes, deep scratches from gravel and stones. Whoever wore these was moving fast across rough ground, trying to stay quiet and failing. The glued rubber was too thin, too uniform. It provided no cushioning, just added a layer that compressed stones differently, probably making noise worse. McAllister thinks about pressure distribution, weight, contact points. Then he remembers the dance shoes, the hexagons. He tells Ashford he might have an idea, but he needs 3 days and a pair of boots to experiment with. Ashford leaves him the boots and a telephone number. If McAllister finds a solution, it's not just about one soldier, it's something bigger. That evening, McAllister works late in his shop, studying the dance shoe under his lamp. The hexagons aren't decorative, they're functional. Each cell acts as an independent compression chamber. When pressure hits, each hexagon deforms slightly, but the thin walls between them prevent force transfer to adjacent cells. This means weight distributes across hundreds of small, isolated contact points instead of one large surface. He tests it, presses his thumb against honeycomb, then flat rubber. The honeycomb compresses and springs back. The flat sole compresses less, but transfers force everywhere. He grabs gravel from his testing bucket and spreads it across his workbench. Presses honeycomb against gravel. Then flat sole. The flat sole pushes stones downward and sideways, causing them to grind together. That grinding is the sound that kills commandos. The honeycomb does something different. Individual cells deform around stone shapes, wrapping slightly around irregular surfaces. The stones still move but less, and they move independently rather than grinding together. The sound would be dramatically reduced. McAllister feels electricity run through his arthritic hands. This could work. Over 3 days, he works with obsessive intensity he hasn't felt in years. He obtains military-grade rubber from a supplier who owes him favors. He experiments with hexagon sizes. 7mm works better than 8 for weight distribution across uneven surfaces. He tests depths. 3.2mm provides optimal compression without making the sole too soft. He tries rubber hardness levels. 68 Shore durometer. Softer than standard boot soles, but hard enough to resist tearing. Most critically, he figures out how to cut the pattern quickly using a modified leather stamp adapted from decorative work. By September 12th morning, he has his prototype. Military boots fitted with custom rubber soles featuring perfectly uniform honeycomb patterns covering the entire contact surface. He calls Ashford. That evening, Ashford arrives after dark, takes the boots without comment, leaves cash on the counter. Twice the normal charge. He'll be back in 3 days with feedback. Ashford returns September 15th with 4 more boots and a message. The prototype worked better than anything they'd tested. They need to quantify how much better. McAllister should prepare 5 more pairs exactly like the first. A Royal Marine testing team will conduct formal evaluations within the week. If results confirm what Ashford experienced, this becomes significant. McAllister works 18-hour days producing 5 pairs with obsessive precision. Each hexagon exactly 7mm across, each cell wall exactly 0.8mm thick, depth consistent across the entire sole, accounting for foot curvature, adjusting cutting pressure accordingly. It's painstaking work that leaves his hands aching, but results are perfect. 5 identical pairs, ready for military testing. The testing happens September 23rd on the Isle of Arran. McAllister isn't present. That's Laycock's 4th failed exercise, where McKay's team gets detected approaching the POW camp. But after that failure, 5 commandos receive experimental boots. They repeat the same approach route the following night. Results are documented in Lieutenant Ashford's classified report, dated September 24th, 1943. Standard boots generate average 71 decibels walking on gravel at normal pace. McAllister's honeycomb boots generate average 34 decibels, same pace. Reduction, 37 decibels. Sound pressure level decrease 98%. Sentries can hear standard boots at 50 yards. They can't reliably detect Honeycomb boots at 15 yards even under optimal acoustic conditions. 5 commandos wearing experimental boots successfully infiltrate the mock POW camp, reach their objective, extract without detection by sentries who caught every previous attempt. The implications hit Laycock immediately. This isn't incremental improvement. This solves the problem completely. But there's a complication. The Army's Equipment Development Committee reviews Ashford's report and declares Honeycomb soles structurally unsound for military use. Their chief engineer, Peter Thornton, with a Cambridge degree and 12 years materials design experience, issues formal rejection October 1st. His reasoning appears sound. Honeycomb reduces effective contact area by 40% compared to flat soles. Each rubber section bears more weight per square millimeter. This accelerates wear, potentially causes catastrophic failure during long marches. Standard military boots last 800 miles. Thornton calculates McAllister's pattern fails after 200 miles, maybe less under combat conditions. Reduced contact also means less traction on wet surfaces. Serious concern for rainy European operations. Furthermore, the complex pattern can't be manufactured at scale. McAllister's hand cutting is too slow, too dependent on craftsmanship. Military needs thousands of boots quickly. The committee's conclusion is final. McAllister's design is ingenious, but impractical. The search continues. This decision would end everything except for a conversation October 7th in an Edinburgh pub. Ashford, frustrated by bureaucratic rejection of something he'd seen work, buys McAllister a drink and explains. The design works perfectly, but Army engineers claim it won't hold up. McAllister, slightly drunk for the first time in 5 years, suggests borderline insubordination. If the Army won't test properly, why don't Ashford's commandos test it themselves? They have the Isle of Arran training ground, run realistic field trials, march distances that prove or disprove Thornton's concerns. If boots fail, McAllister accepts his design is flawed. If they hold up, Ashford has evidence to override equipment committee objections. Ashford agrees immediately. He needs boots, not 5 pairs, enough to equip his 12-man team for 6 weeks intensive training. McAllister calculates 12 pairs, assuming 1 replacement set accounting for potential failures. 24 Honeycomb sole sets. Each requires 4 hours precise cutting. Complete in 3 weeks working evenings after closing regular shop. Ashford offers double rate, provides official requisition forms claiming boots for experimental evaluation under Joint Operations Command. Paperwork keeps the trial legal while avoiding equipment committee oversight. It's bureaucratic workaround. Both men know they're bending rules. Neither cares. They shake hands. The unauthorized trial begins. For 3 weeks, McAllister works until 2 every morning, hunched over his workbench, cutting honeycomb patterns with precision that would impress a watchmaker. His hands cramp, his back aches, his eyes strain under inadequate lamplight. But each hexagon must be perfect, because somewhere on a Scottish island, soldiers will trust these souls with their lives. By October 28th, he completes all 24 sets, packages them in waxed paper, delivers them to Royal Marine Base at South Queensferry. Ashford signs for the package, thanks him quietly, disappears back to Arran. McAllister returns to his shop, unsure if he'll ever hear results. 4 weeks of silence. He continues regular work, resoling boots for bus drivers and nurses, saying nothing about his military project. War continues. American bombers fly overhead toward Germany. Rationing tightens. Winter approaches. Somewhere in Scotland, 12 commandos march across every terrain type imaginable, testing whether a cobbler's pattern copied from dance shoes can withstand military use. The answer comes November 23rd. Not from Ashford, but from a man McAllister never met. Colonel Andrew Croft of Combined Operations Development Center arrives at Rose Street in unmarked car, civilian clothes. Can they speak privately? McAllister locks the shop door, leads him to back workshop. Croft produces a worn boot from canvas bag, places it on McAllister's workbench. The sole shows obvious wear, but honeycomb pattern remains clearly visible and structurally intact. Croft explains this boot walked 340 miles of hard training across rock, gravel, mud, sand, forest, floor. Wearer participated in 7 full-scale exercises, including 2 long-distance infiltrations over terrain specifically selected to test durability. Honeycomb performed perfectly. No catastrophic failures, no degradation of noise reduction. The pattern actually became more effective as it wore in, cells developing slight variations, adapting to individual gait. Thornton's predictions were completely wrong. Croft is direct about what happens next. Unauthorized trial generated data that can't be ignored, but it created political problems. Equipment Committee formally rejected McAllister's design. Simply overruling that undermines committee authority, creates bureaucratic chaos. However, Combined Operations has authority to procure specialized equipment for specific missions without committee approval, provided equipment is truly unique and time-critical. Croft proposes a solution. McAllister contracts to produce 750 pairs honeycomb sole boots as limited production run for specialized commando operations. Work is classified. McAllister hires whatever assistance needed. All workers sign secrecy agreements. Boots produced within 6 weeks, delivered to 3 commando units, used in operations Croft can't discuss. If operations succeed, if boots prove value in actual combat rather than training, Croft fights to get McAllister's design adopted across all commando forces. That fight comes later. Right now, Croft needs 750 pairs of boots. He needs a cobbler willing to work himself half to death producing them. McAllister agrees immediately, not because of money, which is substantial, but because for the first time in his life, his craft knowledge will be used for something that genuinely matters. Within 48 hours, he transforms his Rose Street shop into production facility, hires 4 assistant cobblers who worked for him pre-war, begins the most intensive manufacturing effort of his life. Production consumes McAllister's entire existence for 6 weeks. He develops assembly line techniques traditional cobblers would find horrifying but necessary to meet deadline. Creates master template for hexagonal pattern that can be traced and cut in layers, reducing production time from 4 hours per sole to 90 minutes. Trains assistants in quality control, teaching them to recognize perfect hexagons by sight and touch. Establishes testing protocol, where every 10th pair gets worn 8 hours hard, walking before approval. Workshop operates 18 hours daily, 7 days weekly. McAllister sleeps in backroom cot, 4 hours nightly if lucky. Assistants work rotating shifts, cutting, checking, trimming, assembling boots with precision gradually improving as they internalize his standards. By December 15th, 420 pairs complete. Christmas Eve, 680 pairs. January 4th, 1944, Duncan McAllister personally inspects the 750th pair, wraps them in waxed paper, places them in wooden crate with others, watches Royal Marine trucks haul away 6 weeks of his life's work. He has no idea where boots go or when they'll be used. Croft warned operational security means he might never learn results. McAllister accepts this, returns to normal work, pays assistants their wages, tries ignoring the constant ache in his hands. 3 weeks later, January 27th, Ashford appears after dark, grinning widely. Does McAllister want to hear a story? What Ashford tells him, speaking quietly in dimmed workshop, remains classified 24 years, but essential details are these. Between January 12th and 25th, 1944, British commandos equipped with McAllister's boots conducted 5 separate raids on German installations in occupied Norway and France. Every raid involved nighttime approaches across gravel paths, stone courtyards, or rocky beaches. 0 commandos detected during approach. All 5 raids achieved objectives. Total British casualties: 2 wounded, none killed. German casualties: 47 dead, 23 captured, extensive damage to installations. Raids considered among most successful commando operations to date. Intelligence confirms German sentries had no warning before attacks began. The silence was absolute. Ashford can't provide more details but makes one thing clear. McAllister's boots are now in demand across combined operations. Croft is fighting to expand production. Within months, Honeycomb soles become standard issue for all British commando units. Equipment Committee will eventually reverse rejection, though they'll claim credit for refining McAllister's design through engineering analysis. The truth is simpler. A 54-year-old cobbler with arthritic hands solved a problem military engineers couldn't. He did it by paying attention to how children's dance shoes distributed weight. McAllister accepts this with quiet satisfaction of a craftsman who did his job properly. Returns to resoling boots for bus drivers and nurses. Never speaks publicly about wartime work. Dies 1967 without seeing his contribution officially acknowledged. But in Combined Operations archives, now declassified, there's a memo dated February 3, 1944, signed by Laycock himself. The Honeycomb pattern sole developed by contractor D. McAllister has proven the single most effective specialized equipment for commando operations since Combined Operations formation, January 12, 1944, 0147 hours. 8 commandos from number 10, Inter-Allied Commando paddle rubber boats toward Holgate, France. The beach ahead is rocky shingle, every stone a potential alarm bell. Intelligence indicates 2 German sentries patrolled this approach every 30 minutes, sweeping handheld searchlights across the waterline. Standard procedure requires timing the approach between patrols, rushing across the beach in a 6-minute window when sentries are at the far end of their route. Captain Henrik Bergman, leading the raid, decides to test McAllister's boots properly. Instead of waiting for the patrol window, his team moves directly up the beach, while German sentries are visible 200 yards north, their searchlights occasionally sweeping across the shingle. The commandos walk at normal pace, not the desperate sprint previous raids required. The sound is present, but muted, a soft crunching that blends with waves and wind. The German sentries continue their patrol, never turning toward commandos moving across supposedly noisy terrain. Bergman's team reaches the cliff base, climbs to the radar installation, places demolition charges on the Freya radar array and power generators. They extract to boats without detection. Charges detonate 0247 hours, destroying equipment that tracked Allied bombers for 8 months. Total commando casualties, 0. German casualties, 4 killed in explosion, 3 wounded. But what interests Colonel Croft more than successful demolition is a detail in Bergman's after-action report. Experimental boots performed beyond expectations. We maintained tactical silence while moving at normal patrol pace across terrain, typically requiring high-speed approach or extensive timing calculations. Recommend immediate wider distribution. That single sentence, buried in routine paperwork, changes everything. Within 48 hours, Croft diverts all remaining Honeycomb boots to 3 high-priority operations scheduled for late January. If McAllister's design works once, he needs to know if it works consistently across different teams, different terrain, different tactical situations. Operation Hardtack, January 24, 1944. 14 commandos from No. 12 Commando raid a German ammunition depot on Stord Island, Norway. The approach requires crossing 400 yards of gravel road under observation from a guard tower equipped with searchlight. Previous reconnaissance identified the problem. Guard changes every 2 hours. During the change, both guards stand in tower together, providing overlapping observation, eliminating any timing window. Standard doctrine declares the approach impossible, requiring alternate routes, adding 3 miles to infiltration and increasing exposure substantially. Lieutenant James Crawford decides to trust the boots. His team, all wearing McAllister's Honeycomb soles, walks directly down the gravel road. 2:30 hours, while both guards occupy the tower. They maintain tactical spacing, Move with disciplined pace. Cross the 400-yard danger area in 11 minutes. The guards never respond. Their ears register nothing unusual above the wind whistling through Norwegian pines. Crawford's team destroys 47 tons of artillery ammunition, kills 8 German soldiers, extracts without a single British casualty. The raid is so successful, German intelligence initially believes explosions were caused by Norwegian resistance fighters who infiltrated the depot weeks earlier. They never suspect a commando raid because no one heard the approach. The after-action report notes something significant. One commando, Corporal David Walsh, stepped on a loose stone during the crossing. In standard boots, this would have created a sharp crack audible at 40 yards. The honeycomb sole compressed around the stone's irregular shape, distributing the impact across dozens of small cells. The sound was a dull thud, barely perceptible at 10 yards, completely masked by ambient wind noise. Walsh didn't even break stride, the physics working exactly as McAllister understood. Independent compression chambers preventing force transfer. Hundreds of small contact points instead of one large surface. Stones moving independently rather than grinding together. The simplicity is elegant. The effectiveness is absolute. Operation Claymore 2, January 27th, 1944. 18 commandos from Special Boat Section raid Moløy, Norway, targeting a German naval intelligence station. The approach requires crossing a stone courtyard directly beneath windows of a building housing 32 German sailors. Intelligence reports indicate the building is occupied 24 hours daily. Soldiers moving between rooms at irregular intervals. The courtyard is 60 yards across, paved with fitted stone that amplifies footsteps under normal conditions. Previous raids on similar targets required diversionary actions, timing approaches to coincide with generator noise, or accepting high casualty rates from detection. Captain Peter Roberts, commanding the SBS element, chooses direct approach. His 18 men cross the courtyard 3 hours in 3 files, moving at deliberate walking pace that would be suicidal in standard boots. The honeycomb soles compress against stone with minimal sound, producing soft padding noise that doesn't propagate through building walls. Roberts later reports that halfway across the courtyard, he heard German voices from an open window directly above his position. 2 soldiers having a conversation about mail from home, completely unaware that 18 British commandos were walking beneath their window. The temperature was 8 degrees. The night was clear and still. Perfect acoustic conditions. Under normal circumstances, the Germans would have heard every footstep, every scrape of boot on stone. Instead, they discussed letters from their families, while an enemy force moved past them, carrying enough explosives to destroy their intelligence station. The SBS team plants charges on radio equipment, destroys 3 months of decoded Allied communications traffic, extracts to boats. German casualties, 12 killed, 7 wounded. British casualties, 1 sprained ankle during boat extraction, unrelated to boots. The Germans never knew the commandos were there until the explosives detonated. These 3 operations, conducted within 15 days, generate statistics Croft can't ignore. 9 commando raids conducted with standard boots in previous 6 months resulted in 89 British casualties from detection during approach. 3 raids conducted with honeycomb boots in January 1944 result in 0 casualties from detection. Success rate tells an even clearer story. Of those 9 standard boot raids, 4 were compromised before reaching objectives, resulting in mission failures. All 3 honeycomb boot raids achieve complete surprise and full mission success. The boots aren't just reducing casualties, they're fundamentally changing what tactics are possible. Approaches doctrine declares impossible are now routinely successful. Timing windows become irrelevant. Sentry patterns lose importance. The psychological impact on commandos is profound. They're no longer approaching targets with the expectation of being heard. They're approaching with confidence that silence is achievable. That confidence translates into better performance, steadier nerves, more aggressive tactics. But success creates problems. By early February 1944, German intelligence notices a disturbing pattern. British commando raids are suddenly achieving surprise in situations where surprise should be impossible. Coastal defenses equipped with adequate sentries are being penetrated without warning. Guard patrols fail to detect approaches across terrain specifically selected for acoustic properties. Something has changed in British commando tactics. German commanders want to know what. The German response comes February 8, 1944, in a directive from General Feldmarschall Gerd von Rundstedt, Commander-in-Chief West. The directive, intercepted and decoded by British intelligence 3 days later, distributes to all coastal defense units from Norway to Spanish border. Recent intelligence indicates British commando forces have developed new infiltration techniques, allowing silent approach across previously secure terrain. All coastal defense units will implement enhanced security protocols immediately. The directive is specific. Increase sentry patrols to minimum 3-man teams. Install gravel strips of minimum 10-meter width around all sensitive installations. Implement random searchlight sweeps every 8 to 12 minutes. Consider guard dogs for perimeter security where practical. The directive reveals German high command recognized the problem, but fundamentally misdiagnosed the cause. They assume new tactics, new training, perhaps sound dampening equipment worn over standard boots. They don't suspect the solution is integrated into boots themselves. This misunderstanding costs them dearly for the next 6 months. German resources pour into enhanced security that addresses the wrong problem. 3-man sentry teams consume more manpower than 2-man teams. Wider gravel strips require materials and labor. Random searchlight sweeps increase generator fuel consumption. Guard dogs need food, training, handlers. All of this accomplishes nothing against commandos wearing honeycomb pattern boots. The enhanced security protocols do create complications for commando operations. 3-man teams are harder to avoid than 2-man teams. Random searchlight sweeps eliminate timing-based approaches. 10-meter gravel strips are specifically designed as acoustic warning zones. Croft needs to know if McAllister's boots can defeat these enhanced defenses. He needs to know quickly before German paranoia escalates further. The test comes February 23, 1944, during Operation Forfar, a raid on a V-1 rocket storage facility near Abbeville, France. The facility has been upgraded with all von Rundstedt's recommended security enhancements: 3-man sentry teams with overlapping patrol routes, 12-meter gravel strips surrounding entire perimeter, searchlights sweeping randomly every 7 to 9 minutes, guard dogs in kennels near main gate. Intelligence rates the facility: extremely hard target, high probability detection, recommend abort or postpone pending tactical reassessment. Major Andrew Sinclair, commanding the raiding force of 24 commandos, all wearing honeycomb boots, decides to proceed. His approach plan is aggressive to the point of recklessness. Instead of attempting to find gaps in sentry coverage, his team walks directly across the 12-meter gravel strip during an active sentry patrol. They move in single file, each man stepping in footprints of the man ahead, minimizing total gravel compression area. Wind gusts to 15 knots, providing some acoustic cover, but not enough to mask footsteps in standard boots. The honeycomb pattern compresses gravel with distributed pressure, reducing individual stone movement. Sound that results blends with wind noise. The 3-man German sentry team passes within 18 yards of Sinclair's commandos without detecting them. One German actually looks directly at the gravel strip, scanning for movement. He sees nothing, hears nothing. The commandos are there, frozen during the visual sweep, but the darkness and their discipline render them invisible. The sentry moves on. Searchlights sweep across their position twice. Commandos freeze during each sweep. The guards aren't responding to sound. They're following random sweep protocol. Sinclair's team reaches rocket storage bunkers, places charges on 17 V-1 rockets, destroys facility fuel storage system, extracts across the same gravel strip. Explosions occur 0347 hours, destroying millions of Reichsmarks worth of rocket weapons. Total British casualties, 0. German casualties, 23 killed, 14 wounded. The success of Operation Forfa convinces Croft that boots can defeat even enhanced German security, but it convinces him of something more important. The Honeycomb pattern represents a fundamental shift in what silent infiltration means. Traditional techniques focused on reducing force of each footstep, moving slowly, placing feet carefully, avoiding any action creating noise. McAllister's design inverts this logic. Instead of reducing force, it redistributes force across hundreds of small contact points. Instead of moving slowly, commandos can move at normal patrol pace because boots handle noise reduction passively. This means operations can be planned with tighter timelines. Teams can cover more ground during darkness windows. Approaches previously requiring perfect timing now allow tactical flexibility. By March 1944, Croft lobbies Combined Operations Command for massive expansion of boot production. He wants 2,000 pairs by June, 5,000 by September. The Equipment Development Committee, still smarting from initial rejection of McAllister's design, blocks the request on grounds proper testing hasn't been completed. Croft's response is documented in memo dated March 17, 1944. Testing has been completed. It's called Combat Operations. 17 raids conducted with Honeycomb boots since January. 17 complete successes. 0 casualties from detection during approach. If committee requires additional testing, I suggest they volunteer to join next raid wearing standard boots while my men wear experimental ones. I suspect they'll reach different conclusions quickly. The memo is considered insubordinate and nearly results in Croft's relief from command. Major General Laycock intervenes personally. Laycock has been receiving after-action reports from every raid conducted with boots. Statistics are too compelling to ignore. March 24, 1944, Laycock overrules Equipment Development Committee and authorizes emergency production of 2,000 additional Honeycomb pattern boots. McAllister receives contract notification March 27th. He has 6 weeks to produce 2,000 pairs, meeting his exact specifications. This time, he won't work alone. Combined Operations authorizes him to establish dedicated production facility, hire as many workers as needed, requisition materials with military priority. McAllister transforms a closed textile factory near Edinburgh into boot production line. Hires 43 workers including 8 cobblers, 12 seamstresses, 23 general laborers. Begins the largest manufacturing project of his life. Operation consumes his entire spring. He works 16-hour days, 7 days weekly. Training workers, inspecting quality, refining production techniques, personally examining every 10th pair of boots to ensure consistency. By May 1944, McAllister's factory produces 67 pairs daily. Early June, production increases to 93 pairs daily through improved efficiency and additional trained workers. The 2,000th pair completes May 31, 1944, 6 days ahead of schedule. These boots see extensive use in months following D-Day as commando operations intensify across occupied Europe. Between June and September 1944, British and Canadian commandos conduct 47 raids on German installations across France, Norway, Low Countries. Of these 47 raids, 43 involve approaches across gravel, stone, or rocky terrain. All 43 raids achieve tactical surprise. Total Allied casualties from detection during approach phases across these 47 operations, 0. German casualties, 374 killed, 267 wounded, with extensive damage to coastal defenses, ammunition depots, communications facilities, transportation infrastructure. The impact extends beyond casualty statistics. German coastal defense units become increasingly paranoid about British infiltration capabilities. Security protocols tighten repeatedly throughout summer 1944. Each tightening consumes more resources, reduces efficiency, lowers morale. Guard rotations shorten from 8 hours to 6 hours to 4 hours, resulting in chronic fatigue among sentries. Gravel strips widen from 10 meters to 15 meters to 20 meters, consuming resources that could have been used for actual defensive positions. By August 1944, some German coastal units spend 40% of available manpower on sentry duties, leaving fewer soldiers for actual combat. The irony is, these enhanced security measures are largely ineffective against commandos wearing honeycomb boots. Wider gravel strips don't help if boots make crossing them silent. Additional sentries don't matter if they can't hear approaches. Shortened rotations just make guards more tired and less alert. German intelligence never identifies actual cause of British infiltration success. Intercepted German communications from September 1944 show commanders attributing the problem to everything except the true explanation. Some believe British commandos use experimental sound-dampening cloaks. Others suspect the British developed a new drug enhancing soldiers' natural stealth abilities. A few propose British intelligence infiltrated German coastal units and is providing commandos with detailed guard schedules. The idea that solution is simply better boot soles never appears in German intelligence assessments. This blindness to the obvious reflects broader problem in German military thinking. German engineers excel at complex solutions to complex problems, but often overlook simple solutions to simple problems, assuming that if a problem is important, its solution must be correspondingly sophisticated. They never consider that a 54-year-old cobbler copying a pattern from children's dance shoes could defeat their entire coastal defense strategy. Final statistics for honeycomb pattern boots in World War II are documented in classified report compiled by Combined Operations Command in November 1945. Total production: 2,143 pairs between January 1944 and May 1945. Total commando raids involving honeycomb boots: 89 operations across all theaters. Raids achieving tactical surprise during approach: 87 operations, representing 97.8% success rate. Allied casualties from detection during approach phases: 6 killed, 14 wounded across 89 operations, representing 73% reduction in approach phase casualties compared to operations conducted with standard boots in previous 18 months. German casualties: 247 killed, 892 wounded, with successful destruction of 237 high-value targets, including radar installations, ammunition depots, communications facilities, V-weapon storage sites. The report concludes with recommendation that honeycomb pattern soles be adopted as standard issue for all British Special Operations forces. Implementation delays due to war's end and subsequent demobilization. By 1946, most commando units disbanded. Boots quietly retire from service. Duncan McAllister never receives official recognition during his lifetime. After war ends, he closes emergency production facility, pays workers final wages, returns to Rose Street shop, continues repairing shoes for Edinburgh's working families until retirement in 1959. He rarely speaks about wartime work, partly because it remains classified until 9 years after retirement, partly because he views it as simply doing his job properly. When former commandos occasionally visit his shop thanking him for boots that saved their lives, McAllister accepts their gratitude quietly and changes subject to current shoe repair needs. He dies March 12, 1967, age 78, from pneumonia complications. His obituary in The Scotsman describes him as a respected Edinburgh cobbler who served the community for 50 years. No mention of wartime contribution, no reference to 750 commandos whose lives he helped save. No acknowledgement that his observation about children's dance shoes changed special operations warfare. But in Combined Operations Command archives, now held at Imperial War Museum, London, there's a folder containing 63 letters written to Duncan McAllister between 1945 and 1967. Letters from commandos thanking him for survival. Letters from wives thanking him for husband's return. Letters from children who exist because their fathers came home from war. One letter, dated June 1956, came from Captain Thomas Mackay, the officer who failed that training exercise on Isle of Arran in October 1943. Dear Mr. McAllister, the letter reads, I'm writing to tell you my daughter was married last week. As I walked her down the aisle, I thought about October 1943 when I believed I'd never survive the war. I thought about the boots you made and how they allowed me to do my job without being killed. I wanted you to know that every important moment of my life since 1944, my wedding, my children's births, my grandchildren's arrival, all of these exist because you figured out how to make boots quiet. Thank you doesn't seem adequate, but thank you. McAllister kept these letters in wooden box in his workshop. After his death, his family donated them to Imperial War Museum, along with one of the original prototype boots he made September 1943. That boot is now part of museum's Special Operations Executive Collection, displayed with a placard reading, Honeycomb Pattern Boot Sole, 1943. Developed by civilian cobbler Duncan McAllister, Edinburgh, used by British Commandos for silent approach operations, contributed to 97.8% success rate in tactical infiltrations. The placard doesn't mention 750 lives saved, 89 successful raids, or the fact that a 54-year-old cobbler with arthritic hands solved a problem military engineers couldn't. But the boot itself tells that story. The worn hexagonal pattern, each cell precisely 7 millimeters across, each wall exactly 0.8 millimeters thick, represents the moment when craft knowledge accumulated over decades met military necessity and changed the course of special operations warfare. The legacy of McAllister's design extends beyond World War II. When British Army began developing specialized footwear for Special Air Service in 1950s, researchers at Army's Equipment Development Facility examined McAllister's honeycomb pattern as part of materials research. They found pressure distribution principle remained valid even with modern synthetic materials. Contemporary special operations boots from manufacturers like Lower, Salomon, and Dana incorporate variations of McAllister's hexagonal cell design, though most manufacturers are unaware of historical origin. The principle of distributing pressure across multiple small contact points, rather than single large surface, has become standard in high-performance footwear design, from military boots to hiking shoes to athletic footwear. McAllister would probably find this amusing. He never considered himself an innovator or designer. He was a cobbler who paid attention to how things worked and applied that knowledge when it mattered. The lesson of his story isn't about genius or extraordinary talent. It's about the value of craft knowledge, the importance of observation, and the profound impact ordinary people can have when they apply their specialized understanding to new problems. In 1943, British military engineers declared silent movement across gravel was physically impossible. Duncan McAllister, a 54-year-old cobbler who spent 40 years repairing shoes, proved them wrong by copying a pattern from children's dance shoes and understanding what it meant. And because he did, 750 commandos came home from war, lived full lives, had families, created futures that wouldn't have existed without a simple honeycomb pattern cut into rubber soles. That's the real measure of his contribution. Not the raids, not the statistics, not the official recognition that never came during his lifetime. The measure is in those 63 letters, in the grandchildren who exist because their grandfathers survived, in the weddings and birthdays and ordinary moments of life that happened because one cobbler paid attention to how pressure distributes across a surface. Duncan McAllister would have considered that sufficient reward.